morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. How are we? So, back with another consistent upload, surprisingly. But I've been home off work, so I've been using the time to just try to get some content out to look back on. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about knowing how to lose. And I'm going to go over a live trade of a loss I took and explaining how to lose, essentially, because that is, in trading, what we have control of, right? I don't have control of how much I'm gonna make. I have control of how much I'm gonna lose. And that is a very important lesson to learn, and it kind of makes sense. I kind of came up with that idea because of taking a loss today. And I'll explain where I went wrong with it and why I shouldn't have been in the trade. I'll explain why I took the trade and why I shouldn't have took the trade. I'll show you guys the live trade first before I get into a Yap session. So you guys will see the live trade, and then I'll go over this week's trades, and then we will talk about this subject. So let's dive right in. MSF today. Michigan sentiment final, so we could get some volatility. I don't like this wick, but let's give it a shot anyways. Let's lower our risk just a little bit. We're in. We're just gonna try it, see what we could possibly get.
Understand.
Okay, so we're getting the push, sort of. It's really sloppy. So we are gonna trail our stop loss now, because we don't want to lose that momentum, essentially, right? We don't want to we have the push. We don't want price to consolidate and then rip back up and then get fully stopped out. So if this is the move already, the push out of this zone, then that's that, essentially. And we could see a reversal now as we grab like buy orders down here. So I'm not too worried about it. This is a riskier trade again, so we'll see what happens. We could very well get stopped out right now. So that's always a possibility. We'll just sit tight and see what price gives us. So regardless of the outcome, I took the trade. Now my job is to manage it as best as I can, and with price action, us having some sort of consolidation right here, if price rips above this, then there's potential that'll just keep going. So we'll see what happens for now. now we just sit back and relax with that news. So there's not much I can do. We're going to see what news can do. I would love to see it close below this. If we reject off of this, I will just keep trailing my stop loss, or stop loss will get hit up here. Whoa, my hair. But, right? So if stop loss gets hit, whatever it happens, it's part of the game. But essentially, I want to see a dump below this and kind of cover some of yesterday's gains to the downside. So we'll see what happens in a second here. The news is in 3 minutes, by the way. There's also always potential for news to just not do anything. And it just continued to go kind of sideways like this. But this looks like high impact news, so we'll see. I'm not, as far as I've seen, MS, what is it called? The sentiment final it's not as drastic as like Powell's speeches and stuff, but we'll see. I have my kind of zone set out, and I'm not really liking this price action, so I'm already mentally prepared for a loss. Just because we had the push and now it's kind of consolidating, we could see it continue to push a little more before ripping back. So I'm already prepared to take a loss here. And honestly, you want to do that with every trade you take, is just be that kind of, here, let's do it. No, let's not. Be kind of like in this state of already mentally prepared that your trade is not working out, knowing that you took your setup, if that makes sense, right? So, yeah, that's just a mindset you gotta adapt, because if you come in hoping it's a winner or thinking it's gonna be a winner, then if you take a loss, you're gonna get dragged down mentally, because you're like, oh, like I was preparing for it to be a win and stuff like this. And so, yeah, we'll see. We got 8 seconds. We'll just see what happens. I mean, there's not much I can do now, so there's news. It just ripped straight up, boom, stopped out. So, like I said, already mentally prepared for a loss. And that is also why we don't really trade certain types of news. But regardless, I don't think this trade would have played out too well just because of this price action already. So, yeah, oh well. I mean, we had a few decent trades. We went two for 3 this week. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, this is just part of the game, and I risked a little bit. I lowered my risk severely just so if I did get something, it would be nice, but if I take a loss, it's not a big setback. And that's just part of the game. You got to know how to manage your risk. You got to know how to leverage your risk and all that stuff. And I was willing to give, the $100 that I lost, which is nothing. That's not even 1% of the account. Or I mean, 0.5%. 0.5% is $250. That's like 1/4%, which is a whole lot of nothing, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think that would have hit. Microsoft would have hit, and Amazon would have been stopped out, but that's fine. So, yeah, guys, that just wraps up our week, honestly. 2 wins, 1 loss, which is pretty decent. I'm still up a decent amount this week, and we're just basically just trying to stack little by little as this price action kind of unfolds, because the price action we've been having lately hasn't been favorable for a higher risk. At least for my strategy or my playbook. So I'm perfectly okay with that, because I know there will be weeks where I can just absolutely like have 300, 400, like a 0.5% to 1% of risk on the account and be okay with it, knowing that price action is good. But these last couple of weeks for me have not been good. It hasn't been good price action, but I've been able to find setups and whatnot. So alrighty, now that I've gone over this loser or lesson, whichever way to look at it, I'll go over this week's trades, which I've already posted the videos of, or last week's. I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this video quite yet, but let's go over the trades we took this week. So I took 2 trades, or 3 trades actually, including Friday. We took one on, I want to say Monday, I think it was. Yeah, so we took a trade Monday, we took a trade Thursday, and we took a trade Friday. So the first trade I took, let's disable window capture just so you guys can see. Our first trade was a opening range break low short win. And that is this trade right here, which I did a separate video breaking down, but I'll just kind of wrap up all 3 of them. So that is this trade, and on the right chart, I will pull up yesterday's trade, just so we can do a side-by-side comparison of the 2, correct? So yesterday's trade right here, bam. This one's kind of a little bit messier, but it's all right. So let's just break down the 2. So on the left side, we have the Monday opening range break low breakout, and on the right we have Thursday's opening range break high breakout, but this one isn't quite my strategy, but I'll go over that trade regardless. Just because it's a win doesn't mean it's a good trade, and that trade wasn't the greatest. So Monday's trade, let's go replay mode. Select bar. This is what we were looking at, and if you guys remember the trade, price action wasn't looking too great, but if we go forward a few frames, price quickly switched and it went from unfavorable to favorable, because we had this retracement right here and then these very strong wicks, very, very strong wicks actually, which is beautiful because that's what I want to see. That means, hey, sellers are in here, right? So we came to this previous rejection right here. Let's just make notes of this. Lower or high, lower low. Lower low is the best way to explain it, right? Somebody's calling me. Lower low is the best way to explain it, and we had a strong wick here, but we had these 3 heavy top wicks, and then price came back. We kind of consolidated around this lower low before we had this entry right here. So we took that entry. Price immediately started to push lows, which is great. That is exactly what I'm looking for. When I saw this strong closeout, I automatically trailed my stop loss, because when I see a strong push like this, I want to minimize my risk. That means my move is happening. If my move retraces, there's a chance it might just reverse, and I don't want that, because my trade essentially is now invalidated. The whole idea behind my trading strategy or playbook is we want to catch strong moves, right? We want to get this strong breakout, which we saw in this trade. So with that being said, I trailed my stop loss, and then I trailed it again to like slightly above break even above this, which on the line chart, if you guys saw in that video, I trailed it based off the line chart, and then price just hit full TP. So, and which is funny because I basically caught the bottom of the move, I think, or I'm thinking about another trade. Yeah, I essentially caught near the bottom. No, I didn't. This trade on this day, we continued dumping, but I came into this kind of where my TP was, which was a previous session, I think, low. Let's see, over here, yes. On a higher time frame, that is an area of interest, and we did see some consolidation form here, but eventually price broke through. So besides the point, I don't want to catch the whole move, right? So if we just exit replay mode, yes, it's going to take me back. I'm going to have to reset my charts. Let's see, so Thursday, okay. So on Thursday's trade, let me pull up Monday again just so we can see a side-by-side comparison. And actually, here's what I'm going to do so you guys can kind of see what I'm thinking about. So this is kind of what price action looked prior to my trade on Monday. If I take the, where is it? I keep forgetting where it is. No, not that. The path. We opened right here, went kind of up, down, higher, lower, high, higher, low, little bit of like this back and forth kind of consolidation before we ultimately dropped. Retracement, strong push down, strong retracement, and then entry is right here. So if I move this PA to the side, you can kind of see a little bit choppier, a little bit riskier, which is what I talked about in the sense that I haven't had good price action lately. And that is kind of similar to what we saw here, although this trade was outside of my trading strategy essentially, but it was still a valid trade. So I'm not gonna kind of break down this trade because this trade was very quick. There's 4 candles total. We had price kind of break out, reject off the zone before we continued pushing up, and then we had a very strong push up. But this, just because it's a win doesn't mean it's a good trade, right guys? So I should have taken an entry here. Realistically, this would have been a slightly better entry targeting the same AOI area of interest. This would have been a much better trade, much better returns, but it is what it is. A win is a win, doesn't necessarily mean it's a good win. So yeah, that being said, let's go over to today's trade. If I go back to the line chart, today's trade was kind of a worse trade. I shouldn't have been in this trade, and I talked about it, trading news, but I wanted to see, because certain news events you can trade, they're not high impact, but this was marked as red on financial juice, and now I know not to trade sentiment. But either way, regardless, we had this kind of what I was looking for, this rejection, then a little bit of consolidation close below, which I had a decent entry, but we saw consolidation. Let's see, I should have essentially exited the trade when I saw this consolidation. I'm thinking faster than I can speak, but I did trail the stop loss accordingly because we had the move. So I trailed the stop loss because I'm looking for a full breakout, but I knew that the chances of this trade playing out were lower because of the fact that we had overnight lows right here, and we were kind of trying to target below them some previous AOI from yesterday or area of interest. But we kind of were consolidating around this sort of zone in here, you could say, before news, and news we just shot into my stop loss and got stopped out, and that's okay, that's just part of the game. So I wanted to talk about, which brought me, dude, no way, oh my goodness, yo, hello. Okay, so I'm gonna have to boost the volume, but that's all right. My mic was off for that whole thing, but whatever, I'll just edit the audio. But what I was going to talk about was knowing how to lose. So essentially, the only thing you have control over in day trading is your risk, your losses. So if you just focus on winning in day trading, you're not going to get very far. It's going to turn into more gambling than anything because you're so focused on, oh, I got to make it this much on this trade. Oh, I got to make this much by this time. So basically setting a time frame for yourself. But when you learn how to lose, when you learn how to manage your risk, that is where change happens. And that is kind of what boosted or like made me significantly more profitable, was when I learned how to lose, learned how to manage my risk essentially, because losses are inevitable in trading, and like especially with my strategy, I have naturally a little bit more losses because of fake outs, consolidation, reversals, all this kind of stuff. So you have to know how to lose. You have to know how to handle your losers. You have to know how to handle your emotions and all that stuff. So that is just like one of the most important lessons, and one thing that's kind of helped me handle losses was accepting that the trade is already a loss before you enter, right? I see my setup, I enter, it's already a loser to me. To me, it's a loser. I'm already mentally prepared for it to hit stop loss, and then I'll just trail stop loss accordingly. But this helps you get into the rhythm of, hey, if it's a loser, whatever, we move on to the next one, we learn. And that definitely helped me a lot. Like even in my journal right here, I mark the trade, the outcome here as a loser before I'm even in the trade, just so that I'm mentally already prepared that, hey, the potential of this losing pretty high. And if it works out great. So that is probably the most important lesson. I don't have any notes. I'm kind of just like winging this topic, but you have to know how and when you're going to lose. Essentially, not know when, but you have to know how you're going to lose, how you're going to manage your risk, what you're willing to lose essentially, and what you're willing to pay. Just like for this setup, I only risk about, like this whole week I've been risking like 150, 170, 180 per setup because of price action. And today I did the same thing, but I trailed my stop loss. So today I only really lost like 98, which doesn't set my account back far at all. That's very minimal loss. So yeah, this week pretty good in terms of trading. I've been managing my risk pretty well and just, you know, bit by bit stepping it up, just so that we have minimal drawdown, and hopefully soon we will be funded. We're like 1,300 something away, which is not terrible because if you look at my, let's see, dashboard, you can see that I had, if we look at the all-time, I started all the way in November. We kind of were like up, down, different risks, like $600 and then losing 500. And then I took a fat break between, when was it? Like December, I didn't take any trades December actually. We took, so November to January, I took, between November 25th through, I took 2 trades within 2 months. And then again, February kind of died down, and then middle of February is where it really picked up, and I went from 49,600 to 51,300, which is almost $2,000 profit. And then again, we went from this week we went from 50,861 all the way up to 50,861 all the way up to, let's see, where is it? I hate that it does this. All the way up to 51,619. Hold on. 50,861 into 51,619. So, hi Balto. My dog is outside the window. But yeah, so that's pretty solid. I mean, $800 in a week on this small account, risking about $200 per trade is pretty solid. That's pretty solid progress. So, you know, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but we could definitely see me getting funded within the next month if I manage my risk pretty well. But we're not setting a time frame. We'll just see what happens. But so yeah, guys, that is kind of my little rant. And overall, it has been a pretty solid week. I'll post the week stats of like trades, I guess, taken, losers, winners, total P&L, all that kind of stuff at the end. So with that being said, I will catch you guys next week, potentially, if I take any trades. So see ya.